All right, so we are going to go ahead and get started with our information concerning your district essays and what we need to do to review common practices for your district essays and writing in general. So as seventh graders, I do want you to know that some of the information that we're going to be going over may be a little different than what you talked about in elementary school or in sixth grade. You guys know by now that I teach seventh and eighth grade. And when I approach writing as a teacher, I see no reason to teach differently to my seventh graders than I teach to my eighth graders. That is because I want you guys to be ready for eighth grade and I want you to be ready for high school level writing. If at any time something is confusing or overwhelming, I want you to speak up and ask questions. I feel confident that all of this information is accessible and easy to understand if you apply yourself and take it step by step. So again, you should have something set up to take a few notes today. We are going to go over this information together, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will continue our conversation. All right, so the first thing that I want to talk about is the common mistakes that I noticed in your essays. So this means that I noticed these mistakes in several essays while I was providing feedback. So one thing with your thesis statement, I noticed that the thesis statement was either not contained in one sentence or that the thesis statement did not use parallel structure. If you don't know what parallel structure is, that is totally fine. I don't expect you to know what that means at this point, and we're going to go over it today. However, your thesis statement should be in one sentence and should include your topic and 3 reasons. So again, the thesis statement should be in one sentence and should include your topic and 3 reasons. It should also have parallel structure, which we will talk about a little later on. Another mistake that I noticed was that a lot of your essays still included a hook. Now, because I've taught 7th grade for a few years now, that did not surprise me. A lot of times, the first essay that my 7th graders write will include a hook or an attention grabber. However, as we are progressing through middle school and in high school, we really want to move away from using a hook or a cheesy attention grabber. We don't want to say things like, did you know that bees are in danger? Or, I was walking with my friend one day and the bee stung me. Ow. We want to avoid narratives, which means storytelling. So we want to avoid stories. We want to avoid using first person or second person. So remember when we did our Kahoot, those were I, me, my, you, we, us. We don't want to use those terms in our writing. Again, I understand that it can be frustrating to feel like I was taught how to do this and I was told that attention grabbers and hooks were the way to start my essays from elementary school. And now to be telling you to abandon that, it can feel frustrating or confusing. However, I want you to keep in mind that when we are in 11th and 12th grade, we don't want our essays and our writing to still be at an elementary level. So we really want to work this year to enhance our writing skills and establish how to write at a sophisticated level. And that does include moving away from hooks and attention getters. A question you might be having right now is, if I don't have a hook, what should I do instead? Right? Exactly. Alexander commented that. So a question you might be having is, well, if I don't have a hook or if I don't have an attention grabber, what do you want me to do instead? We will go over that a little later on today. Okay. Again, another common mistake that I noticed is that we were forgetting to include a sentence between the topic sentence and your evidence. If we are introducing a topic and then we immediately go into somebody else's words, it can feel disjointed. So we really want to have a sentence or two in between our topic sentence and our evidence. And these sentences in between should serve to explain the topic a little bit more, the reason a little bit more, and introduce the evidence. If we just have our topic, like maybe our topic was people are concerned about bees because they contribute to the world's food supply. And then you immediately go into your evidence and you talk about the bees' impact on reducing the food supply. But your evidence is super specific and it's only talking about the actual foods, like bees contribute to blank, blank, and blank. We need a sentence in between to connect those two ideas. Again, it may be something that we haven't thought about in the past, but it's just going to make our writing stronger to connect these two ideas together. Another thing that I noticed in the essays is that a lot of us were forgetting to use the 1-to-2 ratio for evidence and elaboration. Now, this might be something that you haven't heard of, but the concept is simple. For every one piece of evidence, you need to have a minimum of 2 pieces of elaboration. I'm going to say that again because I know some of you might be trying to get the notes. For every one piece of evidence, you need to have a minimum of 2 sentences of elaboration. I'm glad you guys are commenting things about what you're learning or things that you did not know. Again, I want to help you this year strengthen your writing. And I don't really want to focus on what we're doing wrong. I want to focus on what we can do to improve our writing overall. Elaboration is like the backbone of your essay. So elaboration is really what can make or break the effectiveness of your essay. And remember, if your elaboration is only summarizing, then your essay may seem weak. But if your elaboration is analyzing your evidence and emphasizing the importance of your topic, then it will be strong and it will really help you strive to get a 9 or 10 out of 10 on this essay. I did see Vladimir had a question. Okay, so Vladimir's question, again, I'll repeat it. For every one piece of evidence, you need a minimum of 2 sentences of elaboration. So that was the minimum, a minimum of 2 sentences of elaboration. I would say the max would be somewhere around 4 or 5 sentences of elaboration. It really just depends. A good place to be would be 2 to 3. There are several places where 3 might be needed, but I just say a minimum of 2. A minimum of 2 sentences of elaboration. Again, elaboration is like the backbone of your essay. That is your words that are analyzing the evidence and emphasizing the importance of the topic. Another common mistake that I noticed was in our conclusion, we were restating the 3 reasons. Again, this was something I expected to see. I know that this is something that you've been taught from elementary school, right? You've been taught to restate your reasons. However, moving forward, I want you to think about how when we've already stated our reasons in our thesis, and then when we've already stated them in our topic sentences, and we've gone into detail with them, saying them again doesn't really help prove anything. If anything, it seems redundant or unnecessary. It seems like a formality instead of something that's really serving your essay. Again, I know that this is something that you've been taught in the past, but again, restating those 3 reasons is typically redundant and unnecessary. So you might be wondering, well, what do I do instead? Just like with the hook, we will go over that later. I know that right now we might be feeling a little frustrated that we're being told some of these things that we thought were right are not super, Navin, that's okay. Thank you. Those of you that are letting people into the meeting, thank you for helping me when people are getting kicked out. I appreciate that. But again, I know that this might sound frustrating if we thought that we were doing everything correctly and now we're being told to do something differently. However, please keep in mind that because I teach 7th and 8th grade, Miss Lavelle and I work very closely on the 8th grade curriculum, and we teach writing in a very, very similar way. Again, this is helping you get ready for high school level writing. I don't expect you to be perfect, but I just expect us to grow and improve. And I think that we can. I see no reason to baby you guys or teach you at a lower level. Instead, I try to have you rise up to the challenge because I think that you can. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about parallel structure. Is everyone ready to move on from this slide? Or does anybody else need a little bit more time? Does anybody need a little bit more time? All right, so now we're going to talk about what parallel structure means, because that might be a totally new term to you. Okay, so while this might sound intimidating or sophisticated, it's really a simple concept, and some of you are already doing this without realizing it. Parallel structure is when we have a list of 3 items that are phrased in the same format. The reason why we want to have parallel structure is because it helps our thesis sound sophisticated, it flows nicely, and it reduces the wordiness that we sometimes struggle with. So sometimes you guys have maybe realized that it's difficult to fit all 3 reasons in one sentence because it just seems so wordy, right? Again, it will flow much better if we have parallel structure. And some of you are already commenting that you've done this and it makes sense. Again, what we really want to focus on is that the phrasing of your reasons is in the same format. So one thing that can help is to think to end each beginning word with the same suffix. I'll say that again so that you can write it on your notes paper. We should end each beginning word with the same suffix. Suffix is S-U-F-F-I-X. A suffix is the end of the word. So for example, here is maybe I'll pause because you might still be writing. Sometimes I go too fast, guys. You have to tell me when to slow down. I've told you before, sometimes when I can't see you face to face and I can't see you writing or typing, then I just keep talking because I feel like I'm talking to an empty room. So I need to remind myself to slow down. So the note that I said previously was that we need to end each beginning word with the same suffix. And suffix is S-U-F-F-I-X. Remember, a suffix is the end of a word. So like ed or s or ing, how a word ends would be a suffix. And when we are using parallel structure, we try to use the same suffixes. I'll show you an example in a second because I'm trying to let you get those notes. Novin spelled it correctly in the chat. S-U-F-F-I-X. All right, our example here using parallel structure is people are concerned about bees because they are disappearing, acquiring diseases, and threatening food supply. So this thesis has parallel structure because all three beginning phrases are ending in the same suffix of ing. Disappearing, acquiring diseases, and threatening food supply. This sentence flows really nicely. However, we could have said the same thing and it would not have flowed as nicely if we didn't have parallel structure. So if you're typing, just listen, pause to listen to the differences between these two phrases. So the first thing that I'm going to say, I'm going to try to say this without parallel structure. So if I said, people are concerned about bees because they keep disappearing, diseases riddle their bodies, and threatening food supply, or threatened food supply. See, that doesn't flow as nicely because it doesn't have parallel structure. People are concerned about bees acquiring diseases and threatening food supply. That just sounds amazing. And again, this concept is not difficult, but it helps us when we are forming these complex sentences. I have another example here, and this one's a little different because instead of having verbs as the beginning phrases, it has nouns. And instead of the three reasons ending the sentence, the three reasons are actually in the middle, which might be a little different. And I'm not saying that you have to do it this way. It's just another example of something that is possible. So some people might say, for their thesis statement, humanity is concerned about the impacts to the economy, environment, and food supply as bees disappear at alarming rates. So again, this is a thesis statement that has three reasons, and they're using parallel structure because they're all in the same tense, they're all nouns, they're not in different tenses as far as ing, ed, they're all present. Both of these examples use parallel structure. Both use parallel structure. The one that I said earlier that was not typed out, that did not have parallel structure. I want you to type in the chat, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in this concept? 10 being, I've got it down, no problem. 1 being, I have no idea what you're talking about, crazy lady. Give me a number between 1 to 10 in the chat. of how confident you are. Thank you, Agabus. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Aisha, Navin, Mariah. Perfect. Thank you, Gabriella, Tristan, Vladimir, Leilani. Perfect, guys. Those of you that are saying you're around 7, 8, that's a great place to be. I don't really expect you to be at 10 yet, right? Some of you who have known this from before might be, but those of you that are still struggling a little bit, that's fine. It can be kind of confusing, and we'll work on it together. All right, thank you for giving me that information. Does anybody need me to stay on this slide? You can also take a screenshot of it if that would be helpful. Okay, so that's our last slide, but what we're going to do now is answer those questions that you guys had as far as what do I do if I can't do a hook? And if I don't restate my 3 reasons, what do I do on my conclusion? We're going to answer those questions now. So what I want you all to do is go into Schoology, and you probably already noticed that in our week 8 folder, there's a green folder called Writing Resource Documents. I want you to click on that folder. So in this folder, we have 4 documents that will help us while we work to revise our essays. Essay template and essay structure essentially contain the same information. They just look a little different. This one is written as an essay in paragraphs, and it says sentence 1, do this. Sentence 2, do this. Sentence 3, do this. Whereas the essay structure document is more of a bullet point list, and it's still in order, but it's just visually different. Both of these help you equally. You may refer to whichever one you prefer while you are writing, and I suggest that you look at both and figure out which one you prefer. Again, I did mention that as an 8th grade team, Miss Lavelle and I worked together to create these. She specifically created the template, I created the structure, but we worked together on the content, so they are very, very similar. The elaboration reference sheet is to give you more advice on what to do to strengthen your elaboration. I'm not going to look at that today because I don't want to overwhelm you with so much information, but we will review it a little later on. And then the transitions are just to help you think of different transitions in your writing. So we are going to look at the essay structure document. Again, this document will help you while writing. And if you look at essay structure and essay template and you determine which one you prefer, it does not matter which one, but I highly suggest that you print one of these out, either essay template or essay structure. If you have a printer, if you don't, that's okay. You can refer to it at any time. But if you have a printer, I highly suggest that you either print out essay structure or essay template. Okay. The reason that it would be helpful to print these out is because while you are revising, you could go back and look at it at any time. So earlier, the question, if I don't have a hook, what do I do in my introduction? Essentially, you're going to have a topic sentence in which you introduce the prompt from a really general or broad stance. So our most recent essay was about why are people concerned about bees, right? So maybe your first sentence is something like, more and more people are growing concerned about specific areas of Earth's environment and the cause and implications that this could have on the future. Then your next sentence might get a little more specific into bees, right? First, it was just general, talking about the environment. Then you might get a little more specific. People have been growing concerned about the alarming disappearance of the bee population. This can be concerning because then you go into your thesis. Your introduction only needs to be about 3 to 4 sentences, right? It does not have to be as long as your body paragraphs. So my best advice is to be very general at the top and then get specific as you go on. Some people try to think of it like an upside down triangle where it's general and broad, and then it gets more and more specific towards the end. But again, this document or the essay template document will help tell you step by step. Again, especially in an online setting when I can't be with you guys face to face, this information is advice from me that I am telling you, but I am just telling it to you in writing instead of with my voice. Okay, so again, this document or essay template is what you should be referring to. So instead of a hook, you're going to provide information. You're going to give a little bit of background information to emphasize your topic, and then you will go into your thesis. Do you guys have any questions about that? I know we might be feeling a little overwhelmed, and that's okay. We've gone over a lot of information. What I want you to do now, I want you to find your essay. So go to the go to your assignments. And when we submitted the district essay, I want you to go back through that. And it looks like I have 14 submitted. I know one of those that says it's not submitted was Mariah. Mariah, I did get your essay from Miss Nikeel, and I actually sent you a message this morning. So if you did not see that, please go look at your Schoology messages for your essay. Do I have a volunteer that would be willing to let me open theirs on screen? Thank you, Alexander. I appreciate your willingness. Thanks, Navin. All right. So with Alexander's, again, we're not going to look at everything that he has, but what I want you to see is that there should be, there's the feedback. There's feedback from me throughout your essay. So if you don't see these comments, you may need to click on them. Again, I want you to read through, right? Here I'm telling him, remember the 1-to-2 ratio. In your elaboration, maybe you could use cause and effect, like if-then sentence to establish cause and effect. You might have to click that button like I just did on Alexander's. Look, if this says show more, remember to click show more so that you can see all of the feedback that I'm providing you. Thank you, Alexander, for letting me show this information on screen. But you may need to click show more. What I want you guys to do at this time is go find your essay and read through the feedback that I gave you. Okay, I'm gonna put my mic on mute. I've done enough talking for today. Go back through and please read the comments that I gave you in your essay, okay? I'm gonna put my mic on mute and I will get back on at the end of class. Thank you guys for your patience today.